Hello, I'm Yana Trafos and I work for the Athens Institute for Education and Research, which is a world association for academics and researchers. I'd like to welcome you to Athena's interview series where we interview the participants that attend our conference in Athens. Today I'm going to be interviewing Dr. Diane Poulin Dubois, who is a professor at Concordia University in Canada. Hello, welcome to Athens.
Hello.
So I would like to begin with asking you to give us a brief academic introduction of yourself.
So I'm a professor of psychology, as you said, at Concordia University, which is in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. So I'm a full professor. I'm also a member of the Center for Research in Human Development. So my career has been at Concordia. My whole career has been at Concordia University, but my education was at University of Montreal. And for my PhD, and I did a postdoctoral fellowship at Harvard University and at McGill University.
Very
Then I
nice.
started my career for quite a number of years now.
Okay, so what's your current major area of research?
So my current area of research is broadly defined cognitive and language development. So, but it's a large domain. Within cognitive development, I'm interested in a number of topics. Research area. In cognitive development, I'm interested in social cognition, which means how, particularly children and babies, I work with young children between 9 months and 24 months, how they understand other people's behavior. How do they attribute a theory of mind, so mental state to others, such as desire, intention, belief. So it's a difficult problem, but it's very interesting. We're finding early emergence, but also a gradual development with language in how children understand other people's mind. I'm also interested over the last 10 years in social learning, selective social learning. Our species learn from others, mainly from others, and we're interested to understand if, and it's been established that preschool children can detect who is a competent model, a competent informant, and an incompetent one. For example, if someone is labeling common object the wrong way, taking a piece of, let's say a bottle, and saying this is a cow, children detect this and don't want to learn new words from that person.
Okay.
So my laboratory has been very active in showing that even babies detect when someone is incompetent. Emotionally, or about language. Emotionally, like if I open a box and I look inside and say, wow, close the box, give it to the baby, and there's nothing to look at. Over many trials, or multiple repetition, babies start to worry about you. They think you're misleading them, and then they don't want to imitate you. In a following test, we did imitation, we do other tests like whether they're going to follow your gaze behind a panel. They don't want to follow your gaze. They're 14 months. They don't want to follow the gaze of an incompetent person or a misleading person. But another group of babies who saw a person open a box, say, wow, and there's a toy, they want to learn from that person. They want to imitate that person.
Oh, that's very interesting.
So in cognitive development, that's what I'm interested. Also the distinction between animate and inanimate object, how early do babies detect what is alive and what is not alive. So we've done many tests on that, that's showing that this broad categorization start very early. And finally, for language development, I'm interested in bilingualism. Montreal being a city where there's many bilingual families. It's French-English, most of them, because the official language of Quebec is French. But in Montreal, and particularly in the large cities, everybody is bilingual. And so we are interested in a group of researchers around the world, a group in Geneva where French-speaking monolingual children can be found, a group in Mexico City, Spanish monolingual, a group of bilingual Spanish-English in California, and in Montreal, French-English. We follow these children for 5 years. They start at 16 months, and we test them every 6 months on their language skill. Do they understand words early? How many words of each language they learn? And whether it's going to predict at the age of 5, they're now 5, whether it predicts their what we call literacy, how early, how good they are at learning in school academically, how well they do. And there's already evidence by 5 years that they are those who have good vocabulary, large vocabulary early on, both bilingual and monolingual, are better prepared for school. They show better abilities that are necessary for school success. So that's my interest in bilingualism. And also the benefit of bilingualism. There's many benefits that are cognitive. That's why the link between cognitive and language is nice here, because what it shows is that children as young as, in my lab we have shown my laboratory as young as 2 years. Other laboratory has argued that maybe even 7-month-old who are bilingual already show benefit cognitively. They show better control of their attention, better cognitive flexibility. So, and recently, last year, we published a paper that showed that because we use a longitudinal design, meaning we follow the same bilingual children over 7 months, those who acquire more doublets, a doublet is like dog and chien in French. I don't know in Greek what is the word?
Skyrios.
The skyrios. A child would learn these 2 words. Many of these pairs was better cognitively, was more advanced cognitively for these particular function, like executive function, control of attention, 7 months later. So that's what is interesting with the study of
Very, very
bilingualism.
interesting.
Exactly.
So tell us a few things about your presentation at the conference. What did you present?
Yes, at this conference yesterday I present on, I just mentioned theory of mind.
Yeah.
And I studied theory of mind and the link, particularly a theory that's called social motivation theory of autism. I have a bit of research, I've done a bit of research on autism with one of my students, Kristen Wright. And what we were interested in, the concept of theory of mind in autistic children. For many, many years, the dominant theory was it was a cognitive deficit about not being able to read the mind of others. So the autistic children would be just observing people moving and not being able to infer why are they moving, why are they saying something. So recently, a researcher has proposed the social motivation theory about the deficit in theory of mind is still valid, but it's due to a lack of social motivation, an interest in other people, an interest in the social world.
Okay.
For example, autistic children or children at risk for autism and those who are diagnosed later on, it's been observed that when they were very, very young, they tend not to orient toward faces. And so if you show them a picture with people interacting and furniture around, they'll zoom on the furniture. You measure their eye tracking, their movement of their eyes. Unlike the typically developing or neurotypical child, they don't focus on people, they focus on other things. They also don't show interest in the voice, the human voice. Even a newborn, neurotypically developing newborn, like the human voice over white noise, not the children who are autistic. So the question was then, how can we measure social motivation? And we used a group of autistic children. They were children with ASD, that's the way we should call them. And they were officially diagnosed by pediatrician and psychologists. And we tested them on 2 tasks that measure social motivation. So we showed them a picture of a human face paired with a clock or paired with a car. And many repetition of this, and we measure their looking time on each picture with a night tracker that allow you to measure exactly where they're looking at the picture. And we show, as expected, that the children with ASD did not prefer the human stimuli over the non-human stimuli. And the typically developing did show the pattern. But what the originality also of our study is that we also test them on another way of testing social motivation that has not been explored as much is the ability to detect human movement, what we call biological motion. When you and I are moving, we move in a biological way, as opposed to a mechanical object that moves very rigidly. So this is detected by showing just a point, lights that are moving around. So if you attach lights to different part of the body and you tape someone with infrared camera, and all that you see on the screen are dots moving, you detect a man walking. as opposed to random, the same number of dots but moving in a scramble way. So we test also these children to see if do they prefer to look at the human body walking or the random or scramble set of dots. And again, the neurotypical children prefer the human walking over the scramble display, while the children with ASD did not show a preference. Okay. So that was interesting to show. But then this was expected, but the two tasks are correlated. What is unique is that we test the same children with both tasks. And we found that their performance on one task, whether they prefer the social stimulus and the strength of their response is linked to the other task as well. So these two tasks measure really the same construct, the same ability. And we related to theory of mind. We did a third task where they did a theory of mind test, but a theory of mind test that doesn't require reasoning with verbal response. A task where you just have to look where they expect a person to find her object when she was absent and the object was moved. It's called a false belief. Okay. If you are with me and then you leave the room and there was a toy or chocolate in a box in one corner, when you're away, I take the chocolate and move it to the drawer, and you come back and you ask a 3-year-old, where is she going to look for her chocolate? They think that you're going to look where it is now. They don't have a concept of false belief. You cannot know where it is. You will look where you think it is. So by 4 years of age, children answer correctly. They say, oh, she's going to look where she thinks it is. They're able to really stop thinking about their own knowledge. Say, they know where it is, but she doesn't. It's kind of perspective taking. But we did a test that doesn't require verbal response. It's a test you can do with infants. Now they don't have to respond. They just have to look at the display and expect that when she reappears, she's going to look for her toy. It's a video clip. And you measure where they're going to look, where they expect her to look. And there are 2 doors opening, lighting up, and then that means that she's about to, in one of the door, to pick up the object. And by the first look, you can tell if they understand that it's her false belief, even if I know where it is. And we found that the social motivation tests were not linked to this theory of mind, this type of theory of mind test. So that means we have to, as everything, as is the rule in science, we have to now test them with other tasks that measure theory of mind. And there are many, many tasks, and you can measure it in one way or another. So we didn't find a link. So that doesn't mean the theory is wrong, that these social motivation tasks are the building block for theory of mind, but that we have to really use different tasks, and that was the first attempt. And I think there's some indication that there's a link, but statistically it was not significant. It means that we probably need a larger sample size. We need to test with other tasks, because that task is a bit difficult, because the car in our video clip disappears on one corner, and maybe they look at that corner when she reappears. They might think the car is going to roll back. So in other words, there's more work to do.
Yeah.
As usual.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
So how were you introduced to the Athens Institute for Education and Research? And what made you attend the conference?
Well, okay. Motivation are double. There's, excuse me, the personal motivation to come to Greece for the first time. In high school, I studied Greek civilization and Latin. So Greek civilization was one of my favorite topics, and I always wanted to come to Greece. So, and I kept having these emails from Athener on a regular basis. I said, what is that? And I started reading more about the conference. I said, this is such a great institution and a great program. And I thought, yeah, this is the time. This year, I decided I would come. Unfortunately, I could bring my student. They wanted to come as well. And we have many, many conferences in North America and in Europe. And we said this year we could not just all come because of cost. But now that I've been here, I'll tell them, I'll tell everybody back home, all my colleagues, how the conference is different from other conferences because it's not thematic. So that means that we have, of course, the talks are grouped by domain. Like there was talks on development and on health, psychology. But you get exposed to a wide range of topics. And you meet people from all around the world. And so that's unique. That's really unique. And it's so much more, it's so well embedded into the culture, the Greek culture, and of course the Greek civilization. And we get to know by doing walk with a sociologist from the institute. This morning I did early in the morning, and then you with all this group, and you learn to appreciate the city beyond the monument, but also the culture and the history. So that's very enriching. I found it extremely interesting.
Very
so everything
nice.
is pleasant.
Okay, I hope to have you again next year.
Thank you so much.